This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Trump has threatened to bomb Houthi rebels in Yemen if they enforce a blockade in the Red Sea. The president, speaking from the Oval Office, said the U.S. dealt with previous threats from the Houthis and will act again if shipping is threatened, Tom Howell and Vaughn Cockayne report. The Houthis have not enacted their latest plans, but their threat seems to be having an impact. Shipping trackers reported at least 2 tankers made U-turns near a choke point in the southern Red Sea before aiming for the Suez Canal to the north. A group of women victimized by Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring urged Republican Senators Thom Tillis and John Cornyn to vote against Todd Blanche's nomination to serve as Attorney General. Susan Ferricchio reports more than 24 of Epstein's victims signed a letter addressed to the 2 senators. They said that Blanche, while overseeing the release of the Epstein files, didn't ensure the names of all victims were redacted. They also accused Blanche of showing no remorse for the exposure of victims' names and images. Neither Tillis of North Carolina nor Cornyn of Texas has committed to voting in favor of advancing Blanche's nomination out of the Judiciary Committee. Even without pressure from the victims, Blanche's confirmation was endangered by the 2 senators' conflicts with the president. Staying on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he'd back a bipartisan effort to ban lawmakers from engaging in sexual relations with congressional staff. Lindsay McPherson reports Johnson said he doesn't believe members of Congress should engage in romantic relationships with any Capitol Hill staff, given the power dynamics at play. House ethics rules bar members from having such relations with their own staff, but don't prevent lawmakers from pursuing other congressional aides outside their office. A bipartisan task force is working with the House Administration Committee to make changes to rules and processes to combat workplace sexual misconduct in Congress. New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill says thousands of non-citizens were added to the state's voting rolls and a few hundred of them cast ballots in the state's elections. Stephen Dinan and Lindsay McPherson report Sherrill said a preliminary analysis showed roughly 6,600 voters were added from June 2023 to June 2024, and fewer than 400 managed to vote. She said the non-citizens were allowed to register because of an error in the state software system that allows customers at its Motor Vehicle Commission to register to vote. She blamed her predecessor as governor, fellow Democrat Phil Murphy, for the problem and said she was appalled by the reckless failures that allowed this to happen. And finally, Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi is urging a debate over whether nuclear weapons have a role in Japan's defense. In the comments, Andrew Salmon reports Koizumi said France is expanding and dispersing its nuclear arsenal and offering protection to NATO allies, and Finland last month voted to lift its ban on hosting nuclear weapons on Finnish soil. For decades after World War II, Japan was reluctant to speak or move so strongly on defense. In the last decade, however, Japan has been beefing up its offensive assets, including acquiring F-35 carriers and Tomahawk cruise missiles. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/frontpage or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today.